All right, everyone.
Yeah.
Get ready, because today we're taking a deep dive into a topic you specifically requested, English grammar.
Ooh, exciting.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It might not always sound like the most thrilling thing,
Right.
but trust me, stick with us because it can be.
Absolutely.
You've sent over this amazing resource from Learn English, and we're going to be going through that.
Fantastic.
And our goal is to really unearth all the cool and interesting and kind of surprising things about English grammar.
Yeah.
Because believe it or not,
Yeah.
it can make you a better communicator if you really know this stuff.
Absolutely.
And there are going to be some aha moments for sure.
Oh, there are going to be a lot of aha moments.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
So just to set the stage a little bit,
Yeah.
this Learn English material breaks grammar down into all these different categories, right?
Yeah.
It's like pronouns, determiners, and quantifiers, possessives, the whole gang's all here, really.
Yeah. It's all there.
I have to say, I'm already intrigued by these determiners. It sounds like a superhero name to me.
It does have a certain ring to it, doesn't it?
It really does.
But they're really just words that help us specify which noun we're talking about, you know?
Okay.
Like, this book versus that book, the cat, or just any cat.
Uh-huh.
It just helps us be more precise.
So it's like a targeting system for nouns.
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
Okay, I'm starting to see how all these pieces might fit together.
Yeah.
But before we get too deep into the determiners,
Sure.
can you give us a little bit of an overview of how all these categories, work together?
Yeah.
It's like having all the ingredients for a cake, but not knowing how to actually combine them
Exactly.
into a cake.
So you can think of it this way. Nouns and verbs form the core of a sentence, the subject and the action.
Okay.
But to create a truly meaningful sentence, you need those other elements to add context and clarity.
Right.
So pronouns, those stand in for nouns, which prevents a lot of repetition.
Okay.
Adjectives describe those nouns, and adverbs, they modify verbs, adjectives, or even other adverbs.
So it's all about adding layers of meaning and
right.
precision.
Exactly.
And those determiners we were talking about,
yeah.
they kind of act as signposts, right?
Yeah.
Pointing to specific nouns, helping us
You would think
differentiate.
that. Yeah.
Okay, this framework is making sense.
Good.
But now I'm really curious about these different forms of pronouns.
Okay.
Because I have to tell you, I've always struggled with knowing when to use, me versus I.
Right. Yeah.
Can you shed some light on that for me? Because it trips me up every time.
Yeah, of course. And it trips a lot of people up. It really does.
Yeah.
So it all comes down to whether the pronoun is the subject or object of the verb.
Okay.
So I is the subject. That's the one performing the action.
Okay.
I went to the store, for example.
Okay.
But me is the object,
Uh-huh.
the one receiving the action.
Okay.
Like, she gave the book to me.
Right.
So it's not about sounding formal. It's really about the grammatical function.
Got it.
And this is where a lot of people make mistakes, like sentences. Yeah. The gift is for you and I.
Yes, I hear that all the time.
It should actually be, the gift is for you and me, because you and me are the objects of the preposition for.
Wow, I've definitely made that mistake before.
It's a very common one.
I have to admit.
Yeah.
So it's really about clarity and accuracy when you're paying attention to those different forms.
Absolutely.
But what about in casual conversation?
Yeah.
Does it really matter then?
That's a good question.
Do we always have to be so precise with everything?
Yeah, that's a good point, and it brings up something really important.
Okay.
While perfect grammar is crucial for formal writing,
Yes.
in everyday conversation, we're a bit more relaxed.
Okay.
However, even if you bend the rules occasionally, understanding them really helps you communicate more effectively overall.
So it's like having a toolbox.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily use every tool all the time.
Right.
But it's good to have them at your disposal.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
And this is where those determiners come back into play.
Oh, yeah.
The superhero words, we were just getting into those.
Right.
So tell me more. What makes them so important?
Well, they are fascinating because they do so much more than just point to nouns.
Okay.
They really add these layers of meaning that we often don't even realize we're processing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about why we use the versus a, for example?
You know what? I honestly haven't given it much thought. I just use whichever one sounds right.
Right.
But now that you mention it, I'm sure there's a reason.
There is.
There is. It's all about definiteness.
Definiteness.
Yeah. So the is a definite article.
Yeah.
It implies that both the speaker and listener know exactly which noun is being referred to.
Okay.
Think, the cat on the mat.
Yeah.
We both have a specific cat in mind.
Right. We know which cat we're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, so A would be dot indefinite.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. A is an indefinite article. It introduces a noun that's not yet specific or known to both parties.
Uh-huh.
Like a cat walked by. We don't know which cat. It could be any cat.
Right, any cat at all.
Exactly.
So the is for something specific, and A is for something general.
Yeah.
It seems so simple now that you explain it.
It is simple.
Yeah.
But it's a powerful distinction.
Yeah.
And it shows how these seemingly small words play a huge role in how we construct meaning.
It's like they're the traffic signals of language, kind of directing our attention, making sure we're all on the same page.
That's a great analogy, yeah.
But wait, you mentioned other types of determiners besides just articles, right?
Right.
What are those?
So we also have possessives,
Okay.
like my, your, his, her.
Uh-huh.
Those indicate ownership or belonging.
For real.
Demonstratives like this and that.
Right.
They point to something specific based on its proximity to the speaker.
So like, this book is close to me.
Exactly.
That book is over there.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm starting to see how determiners work together to create a sort of grammatical GPS system.
I like that, yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
And then there are quantifiers,
Yes.
which tell us how much or how many of something we're talking about.
Right, yeah.
Right. Things like some, any, many, few.
Yeah, all of those.
Ah, yes. Quantifiers. We touched on those a little bit earlier.
We did.
But to be honest, I'm still a bit fuzzy on how they work with different types of nouns.
Okay, that's a great point to bring up.
Yeah.
It's important to remember that some nouns are countable.
Okay.
Those are things you can count individually,
Right.
like apples or chairs.
Makes sense?
And then there are uncountable nouns. Those are things you can't count individually, like rice or water.
Okay, so I can have like 3 apples,
Right.
but not 3 rices.
Exactly.
Got it.
Yeah, so with uncountable nouns, we use quantifiers like some or a little.
Okay.
So, for example, some rice or a little water.
Okay, this is making a lot more sense now. I'm realizing that I use these words all the time without really thinking about the rules behind them.
I think we all do, yeah. That's
Yeah.
the beauty of language, right? It's
Yeah.
intuitive.
Yeah.
But there's this whole system of rules working behind the scenes.
It's fascinating.
It is. And the more you understand those rules, the more you can kind of harness the power of language.
That's cool. I'm starting to feel like I'm unlocking a secret code a little bit.
I like that.
But speaking of rules,
Yeah.
are there common mistakes that people make with determiners and quantifiers?
Oh, absolutely. There are lots.
Okay, like what?
So one very common error is using less with countable nouns.
Okay.
We should really use fewer for countable items.
Right.
So, for example, it's fewer people, not less people.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
That's one I've messed up before.
Very common one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so beyond just avoiding those errors, how can understanding determiners and quantifiers actually make me a better communicator?
That's a fantastic question. It all comes down to precision and clarity.
Okay.
When you use the right determiners and quantifiers, you eliminate ambiguity and ensure that your meaning is crystal clear.
So it's not about sounding smart.
Not necessarily.
It's about being understood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, imagine trying to give someone directions without using any determiners or quantifiers.
Oh, wow.
It would be a confusing mess.
Oh, yeah.
Turn left street, walk blocks, see building.
Oh, my goodness, you're right.
Yeah,
It would be like trying to navigate with a broken GPS.
exactly.
But I'm curious, is there ever a time when it's okay to bend the rules with determiners and quantifiers?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Okay.
Language is fluid. And sometimes breaking a rule can create a certain effect, like emphasis or a more casual tone.
Okay.
But you have to understand the rules first in order to break them effectively.
So it's about knowing when to play it straight and when to improvise a little.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that.
Yeah.
This has been so enlightening. It's like we've zoomed in on this one tiny corner of grammar, and suddenly this whole new world has opened up.
That's what I love about language. There's always more to discover, more nuances to explore.
It's so true.
Yeah, and it all connects back to this fundamental idea. Language is a tool, and the better we understand it, the more effectively we can use it.
I'm feeling very inspired to keep learning.
Good.
But before we get too carried away,
Yeah.
let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture a little bit.
Okay.
We've talked about determiners and quantifiers, but where do they fit into the overall framework of grammar?
Right.
What other essential concepts are we missing?
Well, we've been focusing on these like building blocks of a sentence, right?
Right.
Nouns, verbs, those determiners we were talking about.
Yeah.
But there's a whole other layer we haven't really touched on yet. So it's
Oh,
like, how do those sentences actually get linked together to create, more complex meaning?
okay.
And that's where things like conjunctions and prepositions come in.
Conjunctions, those are like what? And but.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I remember those from school, but honestly, never really gave them much thought.
Yeah, it's easy to overlook them.
Yeah.
But they're really the glue that holds our sentences together. They help us show relationships between ideas,
Right.
like cause and effect, contrast, addition, all of that.
Got it.
Without them, our language would be very choppy,
Right.
very limited.
Okay, I see. Yeah, they add that flow
Yeah,
and logic to our communication.
exactly.
What about prepositions?
Prepositions.
Those have always felt a bit mysterious to me.
Right.
All those little words like on, in, at, for.
Yeah, they're all about showing relationships as well, but in space and time.
Okay.
So they tell us where things are or when they happen.
Okay.
Like the book is on the table.
Right.
The meeting is at 3 p.m.
Okay, yeah.
They might seem small,
Yeah.
but they add so much context.
It's amazing, all these tiny words.
Right?
That make such a big difference.
I know, it's incredible.
So I'm realizing that good grammar isn't just about, like, following rules. It's about using these tools to really, like, paint these vivid pictures with language.
Exactly. And that brings us back to why this deep dive matters.
Right.
You sent in this Learn English resource wanting to improve your communication.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what understanding grammar allows you to do.
Yeah.
It gives you the power to express yourself clearly, precisely, with nuance.
Yeah, it's like learning a secret language.
It is, yeah.
Language of clarity and precision.
I like that.
I feel like I'm going to start noticing all these little details everywhere
I
now,
think you will, yeah.
which is kind of cool.
It is cool.
Yeah, and as you become more aware of, the mechanics of language, you
Yeah.
become a more confident
Absolutely.
and effective communicator.
Yeah,
Well, this has been an incredible journey.
it has.
We started with this like basic overview of grammar categories.
Yeah.
And we ended up exploring like the nuances of determiners, conjunctions, prepositions, the whole shebang.
We covered a lot of ground.
We did. We really did.
Yeah, but remember, this was just a starting point.
Right?
There's a whole world of grammar knowledge out there waiting to be explored.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's like we've opened a door to this whole new world of language.
We have.
I have a feeling we've only scratched the surface.
Definitely have.
But before we say goodbye,
Yeah.
I want to leave you with something to ponder.
Okay.
As you go about your day, pay attention to how people use language.
Yeah.
Listen for those subtle grammatical choices that really shape meaning and impact communication.
That's great advice.
You might be surprised by what you discover.
Absolutely.
And remember, grammar is a journey, not a destination.
Well said.
So keep exploring, keep learning, and keep playing with language.
I love that.
The more you do, the more powerful your communication will become.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, on that note, we're going to wrap up our deep dive into the fascinating world of English grammar.
It has been fascinating.
It has. Thanks for joining us. And until next time, happy communicating.
So we've been focusing on like the building blocks of sentences, right?
Yeah.
Nouns and verbs and determiners.
Right.
But how do those sentences get linked together to create, more complex meanings?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And that's where things like conjunctions and prepositions come in.
Okay, so conjunctions, those are like and but.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I remember those from school, but I never really thought much about them.
Yeah, they can be easy to overlook, but they're so important. They're really the glue that holds our sentences together.
Okay.
They help us show the relationship between different ideas,
Right.
like cause and effect or contrast or addition.
Right, yeah.
And without conjunctions, our communication would be very, very choppy.
Yeah, I could see that. So they add that flow
Yeah,
and logic to our communication.
exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. What about prepositions?
Prepositions.
Those always felt a bit mysterious to me.
They do to a lot of people. There are those little words like on, in, at, for, all those.
Right.
But they're really all about showing relationships, but in terms of space and time.
Okay.
So they tell us where things are or when things happen.
Right.
Like the book is on the table or the meeting is at 3 p.m.
Right.
They seem small, but they add so much context to what we're saying.
It's crazy how all these little words that we don't think about
I know.
make such a big difference.
Yeah, it's incredible.
I'm realizing that good grammar isn't just about like following the rules. It's about wielding these tools to really like paint vivid pictures with language.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And that brings us back to why this whole deep dive even matters, right?
Right.
You sent in this Learn English resource wanting to improve your communication.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what understanding grammar allows you to do. It gives you the power to express yourself clearly, precisely, with nuance.
It really does. It's like learning a secret language.
It kind of is.
The language of clarity and precision.
I like that, yeah.
And I feel like I'm going to start noticing all these little details everywhere now.
I think you will, yeah. And as you become more aware of the mechanics of language, you'll become a more confident communicator.
Absolutely.
More effective as well.
Well, this has been an incredible journey.
It has.
We started with a basic overview of grammar categories.
Yeah.
And we ended up exploring all these nuances of determiners and conjunctions and prepositions, like the whole shebang.
We covered a lot.
We really did.
Yeah.
But remember, this is just a starting point.
That's right.
There's a whole world of grammar knowledge out there to explore.
Absolutely. And lots of resources to help you explore it.
So it's like we've opened this door to this whole new world of language.
Exactly.
And I have a feeling we've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah, definitely just scratched the surface.
But before we say goodbye, I want to leave everyone with something to ponder.
Okay, I like it.
As you go about your day-to-day, pay attention to how people use language.
Yeah, good idea.
Listen for those subtle grammatical choices that really shape meaning and impact communication.
Great advice.
You might be surprised at what you discover.
Absolutely.
So remember, grammar is a journey, not a destination. Keep exploring, keep learning, keep playing with language.
I love that.
And the more you do, the more powerful your communication will become.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
All right, well, on that note, we're going to wrap up our deep dive into the fascinating world of English grammar.
It has been fascinating.
Thanks for joining us, and until next time, happy communicating.